Hello and welcome to Some of My Friends Read Comics. We've got Vince.
Give me liberty and give me death.
Whoa. We've got Chris.
Sorry, I was too cold this week to come up with a clever reply.
Oh, poor Chris. I'm Kia. Hi, welcome to the show. That's topical. We're a week late on this one. Chris did lose his power for about a week. Chris and Vince are both in Texas. Y'all want to talk about how things were for you here?
It was cold. We got snow for the first time, like legitimately, in my life, and it stuck past the rest of the day. I've been waiting all my life for snow, and turns out it sucks. It's not good.
And yeah, Chris, you were without power completely for like practically the whole week.
Yep, Monday to Friday.
Oh, those Monday to Friday planes, those monkey fighting snakes.
Oh my goodness. Wow. We got plenty of snow up here in New York, and I did not lose any power, so I don't know. I'm sorry.
Oh, it wasn't like 38 degrees in your apartment?
No. I mean, during Christmas it was for me. I don't remember if I talked about that, but I lost my I lost my heat. I was getting no gas here for like a week there. So, the week of Christmas I was just like sitting here huddled and cold. But it was fine. I was able to at least kind of handle it. Not really. It kind of sucked, but
yeah, that was me this week. It was like it was, I would say, lower than 40 degrees inside my house on Monday.
Yeah. I remember a day of work when I could like see my breath when I was trying to work, and it's like, okay, this is a problem.
Yeah.
But no, thankfully
safe,
that's
Chris.
all over.
I'm glad you're safe.
Yeah.
I'm glad you didn't have any major damage.
Oh yeah, I know some people out there dealing with pipe bursting. If you're any of those folks who've been dealing with a lot of hard stuff, sorry. Thanks for listening. We hope you are back to normal as well. Like no permanent damages, all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's move on to comics. I don't know how to finish that section.
Yeah.
So what are we reading today? Yeah, we're reading a lot of stuff here. We've got Captain Mar-Vell, the Monica Rambeau version. Who, Monica Rambeau, we saw her in the Captain Mar-Vell movie, and now we're seeing her in the WandaVision show. So we thought we'd take a look at some of her stuff. And then after that, we're going to go into Squadron Supreme number 12, finishing off the series. It's a big one. We might end up talking quite a little bit about that because a lot happens there. But yeah, we'll definitely start with Captain Mar-Vell. We are reading her first appearance, the first appearance of Monica Rambeau from Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 16 from 1982. And then we're going to read a Captain Mar-Vell one-shot from 1989. And so let's talk a little bit about her and who she is. We saw her in the Captain Mar-Vell movie, but as a little girl, like during the 80s or the early 90s it was, right?
Yeah. So she's in there. She's had Monica Rambeau has had a ton of names in the comics: Spectrum, Photon, Captain Mar-Vell. We've covered her a few times, although she never really resonated with me. We covered her in Next Wave. We've covered her. I believe she's in Secret Wars, and she might be in Avengers Forever or Avengers Under Siege, which we've also covered. So
she's one of those characters who has been around for quite a bit and just kind of, very rarely in the main spotlight, though.
Right, but she does predate Carol Danvers as Captain Mar-Vell. But after the Captain Mar-Vell that we saw die in Death of Captain Mar-Vell, if I'm not mistaken on the timeline. Right. Is that right, Chris?
Yeah, so that first Captain Mar-Vell who died is an alien.
Yes.
Yes.
Like Mar-Vell, right? Yeah.
Yes, and we read his death issue.
Yeah, and we got the Carol Danvers Miss Marvel, so this is somewhere in between.
Yeah, and
so the timeline is very confusing, but yeah, it's Captain Marvel is in the 60s. Carol Danvers gets her powers and becomes Ms. Marvel in the 70s. Then she loses those powers because of Rogue in the 80s.
That's something we should read.
Gets different powers and becomes binary and joins the Starjammers. So there's basically a big hole after Captain Marvel dies. Ms. Marvel is in space. So she comes in and is the new Captain Marvel. And the writer of this issue is also writing Avengers during this time. And he immediately puts her on the Avengers as kind of like a trainee and is very clearly like the only one other than maybe Christopher Priest who seems to care about the character for like 20 years.
Wow, yeah.
Which is a shame because I do like the character.
Yeah.
I think so too. Yeah,
because I feel like she was cast off in Next Wave. It was like, these are ne'er-do-wells. And I feel like they made fun of her for saying she was an Avenger. I feel like that that happened a lot in Next Wave.
Right. Yeah. She was like the straight woman, who's just like, I was on the Avengers. I don't have time for this. Was kind of like her whole, like the comedy of it was that she is like very powerful and not a joke character. But she's in these very stupid situations.
But those of you who don't know the comics, she was in Captain Marvel, the movie, as the daughter of Captain Marvel's girlfriend. And I think there's a point where Captain Marvel puts on her costume and changes her color to the classic white and black that Monica has as the Photon Captain Marvel costume for a half second, which then shows up in the WandaVision series also, or at least there's hints of that color combination in the WandaVision series.
Yeah, they also reused like audio from Captain Marvel. I noticed in the latest episode. I was like, oh, I guess we're just doing this, huh?
Really? Yeah, interesting. It's like when comic book artists don't want to redraw something and they just copy and paste.
Yep.
It's the same thing. Dang, Marvel getting lazy on us.
But I was excited to read about Monica Rambeau because I typed in I knew Monica Rambeau, but again I don't know her that much, even though we've read a few comics with her. So I just typed in the word Monica. I wanted to type in Monica Rambeau into Google, and I got to MON, and Google pre-filled in Monica Rambeau for me. So clearly the rest of the internet was also wanting to look her up. Monica Lewinsky was second. So Monica Rambeau is now the number one Monica per the internet.
Wow.
This month.
Wow.
She's having a moment.
Her last name, we've been saying it Rambeau. It's not like Sylvester Stallone Rambo. It's like French, like Rambeau.
Because she's from New Orleans.
Right. From New Orleans, a classic New Orleans girl.
Which just makes the comics look like way better. Like I'm just reading these and I'm like, man, the background's just like setting everything in New Orleans. It just looks nice.
That's true. They do give it something. It's like a conscious decision to put it in New Orleans and say we're going to draw something different than just like random skyscrapers.
Right.
We're going to try and give it some identity. So yeah, I think we can just jump right into this. Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 16 from 1982. This is written by Roger Stern with art by both of the Romitas, John Romita Jr. and John Romita.
I love how I think we had a debate last episode. I was like, I think it's Romita Sr. is what you said, Kia, and I'm like, no, Romita Jr. was on the book at the time. Turns out we were both right and both wrong.
Turns out it was both. And we kind of get going pretty quick here. Spider-Man is about doing his thing. He doesn't come off to a great start though. I think he really doesn't.
He sees that he's just walking around and he gets a spider sense from a random black woman running around, and he's like, I'm like, come on, Pete. It's like that's not good. And he's like, this woman's probably trouble. I should follow her. And I'm like, I don't like this, Pete. And he's like, but I'll change into my costume. She should think I'm a creepo. And I'm like, you are a creepo, buddy. You're following a random woman through the city.
In all fairness,
it's called Spider Sense.
Yeah, it's his Spider Sense. He's doing it with just cause, and he does also think like she's stunning. She can't possibly be bad. Why I should follow her just in case.
But then she also says the way she's dressed, she's practically begging to be mugged. And I'm like, come on, Pete. Again,
I don't think that's like a sexual thing. I think that's just him saying she looks well put together and kind of rich, right?
Yeah, and she's probably out of towner. Going through 80s New York, I guess.
But
wait, I thought he landed in New Orleans. Am I wrong?
No. It's about to be a backdoor pilot where Peter disappears for 30 pages. And we got
they're at like Grand Central Station or something.
Yeah. Right. And then we get this. Okay, so Monica does get, these thugs try to take her purse, and Peter's like, oh, I better spring into action. Give me 10 minutes to put on my costume here. And meanwhile, Monica Rambeau is totally fine. She takes down these muggers, and Peter shows up and is like, wow, what? And she puts her hands on him thinking he's going to be another mugger, and he just goes flying with her energy. And, we see her turn into a mysterious super figure of some sort. And this is about when we get this whole giant flashback. Peter wakes up. She's not there. Big old backdoor pilot. Peter is gone for the majority of this book, for real. And the backdoor pilot section just kind of goes into her origins in New Orleans as well, which there's some interesting stuff here. I think I liked all the parts with her and talking to her supervisor, whoever this guy is. Talking about, hey, why am I passed up for the job of captain here? It's all these men getting it instead of me.
And this is just like a Pam Grier, like the first act of like Coffee, or what are the other ones she's in? Like she made like 3 of these, like blaxploitation movies where Pam Grier beats up people with karate.
I love it though, and I like the cops. Like, I don't want to hear about her boss. Like, I don't want to hear about this in the news media again. And I think like the word "again" is doing a lot of character work. There's like, Monica, you do this a lot. I like it.
Yeah. People are talking like, oh, she's on the warpath again.
And she's a police captain. Is that her rank? Is that why she gets to be Captain Marvel?
I think she's not
a captain.
Oh, she self-promotes herself up when she gets.
She's a lieutenant.
Basically. Okay.
Yeah.
She's a bad lieutenant in Port of Call, New Orleans.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So she goes on a boat because her boss is like, hey, there's like a missing persons thing you got to handle for us or something like that. I had a very hard time just caring about what actually was going on in this portion of the story, in this part of the adventure, because there's an old man, and it seems to be his story about like some research that people didn't believe in, and I don't know. I don't care about this old guy. But they go out on a boat. There is a little bit of a little cheesecake here where Monica Rambeau reveals her bikini to the guards on another boat, and they're like, "Whoa, let's bring her on board, eh?" And that's like the bad guy. He owns that ship, and it's it's a pretty nice little. It has a very James Bondy feel to it. I think
I can see that.
Yeah.
And then somewhere along
was Pam Grier in a James Bond movie? She
No.
wasn't. I'm just thinking of the one where he goes to New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
It would fit right. This fits right in with that world.
Yeah, with the Live and Let Die. With those dudes who just that's a good one.
I don't know a lot of James Bond film. I'm just assuming that this would fit in with a James Bond. Is James Bond?
It feels like a 70s, 80s spy movie.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah. Kind of sexy, causing trouble. Yeah.
Right. And at some point, like, they're building this big, terrible machine with energy, something or other. You know how it goes. Lots of scientific mumbo jumbo. And she decides to bash it with her fists. I don't know why she thought her fists were a good idea, but it does. It's essentially what gives her powers, where everything just kind of radiates into her. And she's like, oh, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And discovering all these moments of like trying to use electrical equipment. And what happens? Like there's a electric thing that runs through it into the guy on the receiving end. So I'm like, all right, cool powers. Shocking people. If I could like shock Vince and Chris while we were on this call together, that'd be pretty cool.
That'd be cool if you could just come through like the internet and then join us on this call. That'd be cool. They could in real life in the RL. That'd be fun.
Just zap through. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically she has like electromagnetic powers.
Yeah.
But it's also it's across like, and that's why she went by the name Spectrum. It's across the light spectrum. So she can turn into light, or she can turn into like waves, like microwave or energy waves.
Or broadcast television waves?
I guess so. She could beam herself into a television.
Because my friends were asking me, like, with WandaVision, they were like, what's the deal with, like, Wanda and Vision? Do they have, like, this history of being in television shows? And I was like, I don't think so. I was just thinking, like, Disney just wanted to have for their first, like, Disney Plus TV show a tribute to the history of television. But, like, more I read about Monica, I'm like, Monica's more in line with this television power stuff than anything. So,
yeah.
Well, it probably should have been her to discover the TV broadcast. But too late. Darcy did it in the TV show.
And also, like, along those lines of like, what is the TV show? We're getting off topic. Never mind. Yeah. Okay. So Monica gets a costume. Thankfully, this ship is also transporting costume racks from Mardi Gras.
Mardi Gras costume.
No, she zaps herself back to like the mainland.
Yeah, that's right. She's
she's
like, how did I get all the way back over here? She was confused by that.
Okay.
But she's in a warehouse with Mardi Gras costumes, which apparently Mardi Gras was this past week. We were too busy freezing to death to pay attention. But,
yeah.
But so
pancakes for dinner.
But she comes with a costume that already seems to have the Captain Marvel star on it.
Right. Yeah.
And then I was like, because I forgot my timeline. I'm like, is the Captain Marvel logo a Mardi Gras logo? And I wasn't paying attention. But no, I remember the Captain Marvel had a star before this. Okay. The other Captain
so
Marvel.
a fleur de lis would be a. Does any superheroes use that? I feel like that would be a good
I feel
thing
like
for
there's
superheroes.
got to be an ex-hero that does.
Yeah. I feel like some Grant
yeah.
Morrison creation from 2005 would have a fleur de lis.
So yeah, she finds a really good matching costume here.
And it has pockets.
Good work.
She noticed.
It
She notes
pocket.
it. She notes that I think in the earlier sequence with Peter, but yeah.
So she goes back to the ship, rescues the old guy. She, has all this energy business going on. I skimmed through the rest of this part pretty quickly. There wasn't much. It was a pretty typical rescue scene.
Mm-hmm.
She gets back to the headquarters, and she's like, "Oh, I never want to." Not to the headquarters, to the old man's office. She's like, "Oh, I never want to use these powers again. These are crazy." And she, they keep calling her. This old guy keeps calling her a captain, a capitan, and in the papers they call her Captain Marvel. How many superheroes have gotten their names chosen for them by the papers? I feel like it's a lot.
Definitely everybody in the DC movies. I feel like he never called himself Superman, and Lois Lane decided to call him that for the papers. I feel like
Hulk, he's flying around with the big S.
Yeah. The S doesn't stand for that. I think is what they say in the movies. I feel like even the Batman doesn't have that name. Aquaman may not have had his name also in the DC universe. Yeah. Hulk, I feel like, is definitely a newspaper person came up with that name in the movies, at least.
That's what I like. Did anyone ever
Wonder Woman? She never calls herself Wonder Woman, despite the W's.
No.
I like the joke in Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey where Huntress is like, call me Huntress, and everybody just calls her like the crossbow killer.
Yeah.
she's that lady who kills people with crossbows. The crossbow killer.
I love Mary Elizabeth Winstead's performance in that. It's so fucking weird. She's so weird.
She's great. It's a fun movie.
I should watch that at some point. I don't remember the last movie I watched, period. All right. So she's like, all right, I guess I will be Captain Marvel. She walks in, drops her badge and gun on her boss's desk and says, I quit. I'm out of here. Now I'm my own captain, I guess.
Is she going to be a hero for hire? How is she planning on making money?
It's a great question. I don't know. But she's like, I gotta call on some high-powered scientific muscle in order to do what? What was she doing? Why is she in New York?
So I think she wanted to meet Reed Richards or some scientist that would help her.
Well, because the side effect of getting her powers is there's something unstable about them right now, and that's why Peter is getting her. His spider sense is going off from her. She's basically like a bomb right now.
Okay.
So yeah, she's up there trying to find Reed Richards. Spider-Man is all around looking for her. He climbs to the top of the the Empire State Building, and he's trying to look through the little camera things to find. Like, he sees her, and she says, "Oh, she must have seen something through this." And then he says, "Oh, I need a quarter in order to be able to look through it as well." And so he sees a kid, and he says, "Hey, kid, give me a quarter." And he says, "No, my dad says that Spider-Man isn't real. He's just made up by, the news media in order to sell papers. So if you want my quarter, you got to prove to me that you're Spider-Man." And so he goes, he stands on the wall, and the kid's like, "Oh my God, holy crap." I was like, damn, you didn't really have to do much, Spider-Man. I would have at least given the guy a flip or something.
I mean, standing on a wall, it's
pretty good. It is good.
I always think about how dirty Spider-Man's the soles of his spider boots would be, because he's not wearing so he can stick to things. He's not wearing shoes.
Yeah.
So just think how dirty.
Imagine him going up the windows of your building and just leaving. Spider-Man. We just had a window washer come by too. Gee. So Spider-Man sees the Baxter building and he goes, "Oh, she must be headed there." And meanwhile, this kid runs back to his parents and they look out the window and Spider-Man's not there. So they're like, "Oh my God, our kid's losing his mind. The air's too thin up here for our growing little boy." Poor kid.
I do love the art on these few pages. It's very clearly John Romita Sr. art, because it's so clean lines. It reminds me of the Spider-Man of the late 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we might talk more about the '60s Spider-Man in a bit, not late. So, um, but yeah, he goes to the Baxter Building. Monica's already there. She meets the Thing, and she's like, "Hi, I'm Captain Marvel." And the Thing says, "Oh no, that guy's dead, and he was blonde, so that's okay. He probably wouldn't mind you using his name." And like, yeah, am I the only thing out there? Probably not. It's fine.
I love he's just smoking in a lab too. He's like so chill about everything. He's like, yeah, this is normal.
The Thing really is my favorite part of this issue. I feel like the whole flashback part, like, I don't know, I wasn't too sold on, but the back half of this issue is pretty good.
I feel like the whole stuff with Monica's like backstory is like very standard. Like she got powers, deal with it.
Right.
Nobody's like a resonating villain or anything that she's gonna have to like deal with or anything like that. Like laying the groundwork. She's got powers, deal with it. This stuff is good though.
So Spider-Man gets there as well, and wait,
no,
does she? What?
The thing is like, Reed's out of town. You know, he's in space. I don't know what to tell you. And she's like, can I talk to anybody else? And he's like, I guess you can talk to the Avengers. She's like, does this line connect to the Avengers house? And he goes, yeah, sure. And so she just jumps through the phone line and gets over there. Which is such a cool use of powers. I feel like they have been setting up Monica to like, they've really like, is this a wrestling term? They put her over. Like she beat up Spider-Man pretty quickly, and now she's got cool uses of powers. I'm on board with her power set and knowing, oh, this girl can do some stuff.
Right. Yep. Yeah, like I said, her second appearance, she joins the Avengers as like a trainee. Because they're, I guess, impressed that she can do all these crazy things.
Yeah, they're giving her a big push. That's what's happening. So Thing is there while Spider-Man shows up, and they're talking about like, oh yeah, she explodes, blah blah blah. That's an issue. She's going to the Avengers, and Spider-Man goes running off after her before Thing can explain like, no, it's fine, she's okay, she's not a bad guy. But she jumps out of Iron Man's computer and accidentally shocks him when she comes out, and so he's like completely dead on the floor. Not dead, but. Iron Man's like, oh, you can wake me up if you just like give me a tiny little spark in this spot. And she goes, no, I can't do that. It's all or nothing. So this other guy walks in. Who's this guy?
Jarvis.
Some politician.
Jarvis.
Oh, is that Jarvis? It looks like he was wearing too nice of a suit. He was wearing like a politician's suit. But well, you know how the Avengers always had these like politician liaisons over time. I thought it was one of those. But he's like, oh my God, who are you? I'm gonna go get help. And runs into Spider-Man, who, again, Spider-Man just runs past. And Jarvis doesn't know what's going on anyways, but shows up to see Monica there and, like, tries to trap her. But she busts through his webs. Oh, my God, she's so OP. Busting out of everything. And then Iron Man shows up. He does, like... Oh, that's right. Spider-Man knocks her unconscious. And she's down right as Iron Man shows up with the Wasp. The Wasp was able to use one of her little wasp stings to wake him up. And Iron Man says, well, she's even more dangerous now. She might explode any second. I need you to rip out some random cables from inside of our walls, and I'm going to use that to fix everything. And Spider-Man says, cool. He rips out some cables. They plug them into Iron Man. They do a bunch of web business around them to like shield them from everything. And a little bit of, I don't know, I think I'd call this a Deus Ex Machina of Iron Man using powers to put her back to what she needs to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Somehow this solves the unstable nature of her powers like immediately.
Yeah. Immediately, and everything's fine. That's it. We get the whole Avengers there. Everyone's talking, having a good time.
Avengers looking team at this point.
It is.
Iron Man, Captain America, Hawkeye, Thor, She-Hulk, Wasp. It's not a bad group.
Yeah. It's a good team. I feel like having just the She-Hulk and Hawkeye on any team gives you that purple and green. Yeah. Iron Man gives you that yellow. There's a nice color diversity here in this team, which I like.
And I think this is when Vision is like being rebuilt. He's like connected to the mansion because he comes back and basically briefly turns into a villain. But he's also part of this team. It's probably my favorite run of the Avengers, honestly. Yeah.
So Monica, when she's in the Avengers, she's like deals with like Dr. Druid and everything like that. Is that pretty quick that the people I like leave the team and then people like Dr.
No, Druid that's like 60 issues later.
Okay.
But because for a long time, I mean, it's like as to use the wrestling terminology, she goes from basically like being the rookie who doesn't know how to use her powers to kind of being one of the like longest serving members, because a bunch of people end up coming and going, like Namor joins, and who else? Some other people come and go, like Thor goes off to deal with his Ancient Winters and all of the Walter Simonson stuff. And then Captain America gets replaced as Captain America, so he's off the Avengers. But yeah, it's that's not until for a while. And then Under Siege is around like 275. That's like the big. It's not the end of Roger Stern's run, but we covered it a long time ago for the show. But yeah, that's like the kind of the culmination of like 60 issues or so, a long run.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah, that is a big 5 years on Avengers. Yeah. But that's pretty much it for this story. Peter goes and meets up with Harry Osborn and Liz Allen is her name? Yeah. And they were going to set him up with somebody, but they couldn't make it. And let's go have lunch. And that's it.
Yeah. He's like, oh, no, Harry will be mad at me because I was late. And then they get there and they're like, our bus was late. So sorry we kept you waiting, Peter. So everyone is able to not know that he had this adventure.
But yeah, let's jump to 1989 now, where she gets her own one-shot here. This was written by Dwayne McDuffie with art by, I wrote it down. Doc Bright. I also wrote down that Mark Greenwald, who wrote Squadron Supreme, was the editor on this book.
Okay.
But this is some neat art. It starts with a pretty classic like monstery fight where the art of this monster sucking out her energy, and she's like rotting and falling apart. Her flesh is dying. It's like that's some pretty cool art. But we jump pretty quickly. It's a bad dream. No big deal. And we get to learn a lot about her home life. This was really nice. I really liked this portion where it didn't feel as I don't know what the word I'm looking for is from the 1982 book, where it's like, that very blaxploitation-y kind of like, oh, look at her making a stink, blah, 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 where this felt a little bit more realistic in terms of her just kind of being a real character out in the world, trying to make it. She's trying to tell everybody she's not a cop anymore.
Yeah, she's like lost her powers, so now she's living with her mom and her dad. Or
yeah.
Mom. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It's I know it's Maria, who we know from the Captain Marvel movie. Probably not the same military background and stuff, but I don't honestly know. But yeah. So she's just at home, like after she lost her job. That's relatable.
Yeah. But she does still, like, she still has her power. Like, she still has a costume that she wears, but so has she completely lost her powers?
It says in Captain Marvel lost her electromagnetic powers in Avengers 293. So she joined the Avengers in Avengers 227. It said in the last issue we read. So that's a 65 issue run.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So she's just lost her powers, but she's still wearing this costume to beat up some people on a boat again. She likes to beat up people on boats. That's her thing, I guess.
Yeah, these books do blend a little in my head. Because I was like, when did that villain show up? But that was this issue.
But she runs into Powder Keg. Is he a member of the Wrecking Crew? He looks like it.
He does look like it.
But I guess he's not. Dwayne McDuffie loves the Wrecking Crew, I guess. And so that's what made me think this guy was a Wrecking Crew guy.
I mean, so do I. I think we all love the Wrecking Crew.
We love
the Wrecking Crew. Have, I guarantee you, been in half of the episodes we've covered on this show. And I do not know any of the names.
Wow. That's right. Even the ones by like Batman, the Wrecking Crew are there.
They were in Tales from the Crypt. You can't tell me otherwise.
Their names are like Crusher and Piledriver or something like that. I don't know. Hammer, Sledgehammer.
I don't know. We've read them so many issues, and I don't know the Wrecking Crew.
I think they're in Thunderbolts. We're talking about doing that soon. All right. So she's this guy though is not a member of the Wrecking Crew. Just looks like it. What did I say his name was?
Powder Keg.
All right. There's a nice little fight there. Still on a boat. And there's a fire on the boat. It's pretty typical superhero stuff. Like, there's nothing super unique about any of this, but it's just she's flying around, so she does have some sort of power set left to her, just not the electromagnetic stuff.
Yeah, the thing that's kind of interesting about it is at the start of the fight, she's like, she's basically bluffing when she got everyone to surrender when she just showed up in her costume, kind of like Superman did in the wedding.
Yeah.
But then when she starts fighting Powder Keg, she's like, wait, I do have some powers. Like, what's going on?
I see. That makes sense. That's where it's coming from. She ends up like the whole ship is flooding. It's on fire. Powder Keg is down underwater, and she dives down to save him. And they come up. This image of Powder Keg with the red hair and the bright green costume is so strange to me because he's almost entirely green. He looks like an alien. It made me also think about it really must suck to get your costume wet. That's all.
To pull it off.
I just can't imagine imagine dealing with that. Wow, terrible. And like someone like Spider-Man who's got like stuff built into it. Jeez, does he have to get it to dry out before he can use it again?
I think they mentioned baby powder in a movie, didn't they?
That seems worse. Ugh.
So you just stay dry and you get around the joints of your costume.
Yeah. I don't remember. It seems worse if you had like the 2000s X-Men like leather outfits. Those seem like if you get them wet, it would just stink.
Oh, I feel like I would get such like not rashes, but like those things where you just get like kind of like it just rubs up against you and it burns. It's not a Charlie horse, but that kind of thing. Yeah, leather costume would suck.
Yeah, no
leather
thanks.
Pants, fighting crime in leather pants. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Again, just like the smell after like one of Wolverine gets in like a 20-minute karate fight with someone. Those leather pants are going to smell horrible.
So another reason these comics blend into each other is because in this issue she now goes to talk to Reed Richards to test out her powers, which is what she was trying to do in that other issue.
She successfully does it this time.
Yeah, successfully. And they're like doing some tests and like, yeah, look, you're getting stronger or something, and you're less powerful than you used to be. You could take some hits, but you're still, still got some powers.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty massive. I guess comic book writers probably didn't like, such a weird power set of like you can just transform into energy waves and move super fast and like it is overpowered in a way. But like now she's basically like everybody else. It's like you're super durable, you have some super strength, and you can fly.
She's been massively nerfed. But she's still an interesting character. You don't need the best powers to be an interesting character, right? Maybe. But she shows up at who's Ron? Who is her boss? She shows up at her boss's place, and it's been like ransacked. Because somebody came in to try and steal something, like some Stark business that he had. And so she goes out looking for them. One of them is I was a little lost on how everybody was like linked together because she goes to Brazil and
there's a Brazilian crime lord that's like talking about like Captain Mar-Vell messed with my boat. We skipped over her right before she went to go visit Reed Richards.
Okay.
She reminds me a lot of the villain from. She reminds me a lot of the villain from Fast and Furious 5 for some reason. Probably just because she's powerful from Brazil. But
right.
But that's.
But yeah, I did have trouble keeping track of all the different villains that were coming up in this because it felt like a few too many in terms of sticking to the core of the story here.
Yeah, especially I guess. Moonstone was part of the Avengers Under Siege. Like she was part of that Masters of Evil. And like here she just shows up to have like a 5-page fight with Captain Marvel where it's really just like, really? Like Moonstone to me is like, I know she's not like a major villain, but she's more important than this. Like she should be probably the main villain of, she could be Captain Marvel's like #1 villain.
See, that's what I couldn't. That's what I couldn't tell because this is one issue in 1989. I was like, did they mean to make it ongoing and it just didn't work? Or was this always intended to be a one-shot, which seems much more like in line with Marvel Publishing I know from the 2000s and later, to just do like a one-shot. But
yeah. I mean, this is 40-some pages, so it's not quite the right length to be like the first 2 parts of something.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, it's.
But it's not like it's not a 4-issue miniseries like Venom either. So
yeah.
Well, maybe it was like Dwayne McDuffie says maybe this will get me a full length at some point, and if I load up a few different elements in here, I'll be able to use them later.
Yeah, because I could see Moonstone then being like a core like part that either is like the #1 henchman, like a Darth Vader type, for this Captain Marvel. That's what maybe I was thinking they might be doing. But
Yeah, and because like they have very similar power sets. She's got a space theme. Like it would make sense for her to fight. Monica. So I thought it was kind of a waste that she's only there just briefly, and then the real villain is this Portuguese lady we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually at some point I was like, wait a minute, this isn't Moonstone anymore. I thought Moonstone put on the secret gear, but no, Moonstone just leaves, and that's it.
Yeah, she works for the Brazilian woman who speaks Portuguese.
Yeah. So yeah, Captain Marvel,
Dr. Marvel.
and Moonstone. Yeah, is there a Dr. Marvel? I don't know. There should be. I was thinking Spectrum, and I almost called her Dr. Spectrum from Squadron Supreme.
But, different book we're reading.
Yeah, they have a nice little fight. She's kind of got like the pure white kind of color scheme going on with whenever she's using her powers and kind of turning it on. There's a nice little like spiral business as well. I like all the art that surrounds Captain Marvel when she's doing her things. It's nice. But so Moonstone takes this Stark package that she's got and she runs off with it. Wait, no, she doesn't. What happens here? How does it end up getting into the boss's hands?
So they just have a like 5-page fight, and then while they're fighting, the boss just picks up the package while it's on the ground, basically.
Okay. And she's put this gear on. She's got this new Iron Man super suit, and so she's pretty tough. I think one of my favorite panels here is Captain Marvel saves this random guard, and she goes, "Are you all right, sir?" And he goes, "I'm terrific. I almost wouldn't mind doing that again." He looks super happy about that. He's like, I wanted to save him again. But pretty unstoppable robot villain. We get some help from her friends who give her this device. Like, you can use this to short out her electromagnetic science stuff, maybe. And she throws a car on her. It's pretty good. I think that's a good set piece.
I like I know it's a comic book and it's not real, so it's not something to worry about very much. But I love that she's this woman's stealing this like experimental Tony Stark armor, and then it's like form fitted to her, including like boob shape.
Yeah,
like it doesn't make any sense.
How did Tony Stark know this armor needed boob shape?
Yeah, like why? Like no, she's wearing like head to toe armor, but make it sexy,
Yeah,
doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, not at all. But thanks for pointing that out. I didn't catch that. Well, I was so confused as like the order of events here. Everything went a little too fast because this villain gets introduced and is the big bad of the story. Yeah. But it's kind of like the first time we really see her.
Yeah, this probably should have been like a 3-part miniseries to like really give a little bit more time to like have a relationship. Like, is she going to be friends with her boss? Like, what's his deal? Like, what's to try to set up what would be the status quo of a ongoing if they got an ongoing. Because I don't think it's quite holds together.
Not really. But I mean, overall, I think I do like her and I like a lot of the people. It like just as far as stringing together a story of like, I need to read more of this story and give myself like a hook for what's going to happen further. It doesn't really do that. It's more like, well, she's been nerfed now and this is who she is. Cool. It does end with a quote from Zora Neale Hurston as well, which I was like, okay, that's nice. It did make me realize, like, wait a minute, like, is she the first Black female to get like a solo title? I'm thinking, like, who else would there have been?
Yeah, I'm thinking because like there's Vixen is just like a member of the Justice League in the 80s. And who's basically like looks like Foxfire from Squadron Supreme, and like who else are the like major like African American women like at all?
Like Misty Knight. Oh yeah, Storm would have probably had maybe not a solo title.
Yeah, I think she gets
probably the most
prominent in the 90s. I don't think she ever had a solo thing until the 2000s.
No, but no, like of all the things, like I know Joanne McDuffie's a writer of color as well, and so just like being able to see that in her hair, I think is the thing that stuck out to me the most. That it's just like it's very realistic ethnic hair, and they didn't try to like hide that or smooth it over or do something different. They're just like just like let her be ethnic, and it's fine. I just appreciated that.
Yeah, there's a 1994 one shot that we didn't read that is also 41 pages. So it seems like that might have been sitting on the shelf for a while. But it's like because it's the same writer and artist team, and that one is more dealing directly with like racism stuff. There's like a Sons of the Serpent organization on like Empire State campus, and she has to fight like some sort of, I don't know, Nazi guy. So it's a little bit more direct about that, but I do think it's cool that they don't really talk about it in these 2 issues. But it is like she has like Pam Grier like afro in the early '80s, and then she's got like I don't know if you call them dreadlocks, but she's got very natural hair in both appearances.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, like a good character. Sad that, we didn't get to see this. But again, maybe the plan was to do a series of one-shots to kind of just test the waters and see how things go. But who knows?
Yeah, well, and then, McDuffie, and he takes, and he goes by Doc Bright because his initials are MD. He takes Mark Bright with him to Milestone Comics. So that's probably what they do instead of doing a Captain Marvel book. Is he works on like Icon and Haywire and other books that I don't think he worked on Static, but books like that.
Cool. Anything else we want to say about Monica Rambeau? I guess if you're interested in learning more, watch WandaVision. She's in it. It's pretty cool. Yeah. But anything else about these books we want to mention?
Not really, no. I thought they were interesting, but
Yeah.
I think there was cool things in it, but I still think I want to know more of Monica, but I think I just really like the Monica in WandaVision. I want to know more about her.
That's what, yeah. I mean, the thing I think we realize is reading first appearances of characters tends to be just like very basic power type stuff, and then even a first issue like this, sometimes it can go a couple different ways. We didn't learn too much about Monica.
Well,
yeah, we learned a little bit about her, but then it all ended up being just villainy stuff.
Well, and I tried to read like an Ultimates Omniversal book from like 2016, 2015, thereabouts, after Doctor Strange or Doctor Doom like reformed the universe, and she's on a team, but she's just kind of like lost in the background in that team. It's by Al Ewing, and she's like on 3 or 4 pages an issue, but doesn't get to do much stuff other than like power stuff. Doesn't really get to interact with anybody, or at least the few issues I read. So. I didn't really feel
we need a proper Monica series, a proper solo title one day. But for now, I think it is time to jump on over to Squadron Supreme number 12 of the last issue. Finally, it's also a double-sized one. Boy, this might take us a little while, but hopefully we'll try not to get bogged down by the minutia of things. But we've made it to the end here. Nighthawk and his crew of villains. They've been continuing to use their behavior modification undo thing on everybody and have them join the resistance. In this issue, they've got the last one they need, Foxfire. And as she's getting unbrainwashed, Nighthawk kind of recaps everything that's happened so far, that how they wanted to rescue all the villains, but Quagmire and Dr. Decimal died. Did I say Decimal? Dr. Decibel.
Decibel.
Ape X has also lost her mind. But they did rescue Lamprey and Shape, and now Foxfire. On top of that, they've got Redstone, Haywire, Thermite, Inertia, and Moonglow. 5 more villains on the team, which means they've got a total of 7 people on the inside. He mentions that they got 6 more on the outside. There's Nighthawk, Pinball, Mink, Remnant, Archer, and Master Menace. I was trying to count everybody and write them down as I was reading this. And he says there's only 5 squadroners left on the inside, although I think it's 6. Hyperion, Power Princess, Spectrum, Blue Eagle, Whizzer, and Arcana.
Yeah, that's 6.
Yeah. So Foxfire agrees to join, which now means that the villains have the lead. I call them villains, but the Resistance has the lead. They're 14-6, which really, until they laid it out like this, I was like, oh, wow. They're really outnumbered at this point. Holy shit.
Yeah, I think I said last episode, it's a real Red Rover situation where, you taking out somebody, then adding somebody else to your team is really like shifts the balance really quickly. It's really massive. It's fun.
So they say, okay, you want to join the team? And she says, yeah, I'm in. Let's do it. Master Menace, they say, okay, we got to go back to the base and, make sure they don't suspect anything. So they start heading out. Master Menace tells Nighthawk, hey, you should just behavior modify those other members. And he says, no, we're not going to do that. Mink says, well, we already brainwashed Blue Eagle, right? Like, I regret that every moment of my life. Never again. No. But I do like how Mink says, like, hey, I'm entitled to my own opinion, right? That's fine. No big deal. And they like just kind of get along and keep going. It doesn't cause like a massive rift. It's just like, cool. All right. As Foxfire and Lamprey are flying back, Foxfire is having second thoughts about all this. She's like, boy, I'm unbeat behavior modified, but do I feel right with turning on the squadron now? They pass over a crime and they don't stop, and she's like, kind of like, oh, well, what's the rest of the squadron going to think? Like, they won't know. No big deal. I like this breakfast scene where Spectrum says, no more pancakes. Okay, 5 more pancakes. Shape, who has been unbehavior modified, is still confused because, Shape's got some problems. He goes to Ape-X, whose mind is also just melted, and he's trying to find some help, but Ape-X can't say anything. Moonglow tricks him into, like, seeing Ape-X talk using her, like, illusion powers, and Ape-X tells Shape, hey, those original Squadroners are bad. Only trust the new ones, especially Moonglow. She's great. Believe everything she says. Which I think was great. Blue Eagle and Redstone are hanging out. Blue Eagle's being super nice. They're loading up Tom Thumb's body, and they're like, hey, do you need help with any of that? And Redstone's like, I can't wait to beat you up, nerd. You got Haywire and Inertia, who are an item. These are like some of the members we've seen the least of because they were that new crew of villains that got recruited into the team.
Haywire just sends like chicken wire is his powers, right?
Yeah,
he sends like people suddenly get wrapped up in wires. It's very weird.
Yeah, it's
the
very
physics
strange.
of it blow my mind the way it's drawn. It's so interesting.
It's kind of like if somebody had Spider-Man's webbing, but it was just like not built as well, and so it came out all like messy and scratchy.
Yeah, it looks like pig. It looks like it's like coming out of Pigpen from Scooby-Doo from Peanuts. But it's also wires, and it's somebody. It looks like it's a pain in the ass for the colorists because they just don't fucking bother. It's white. It's white and black. Deal with it. I inked it. Deal with it.
Thermite hops in like he's like hee hee, and he turns their little sauna thing to ice, and they're like, oh, why you Thermite? Hee hee. Nice little touch of making them a little bit more like real characters, kind of a little closer to the rest of the team that we've been seeing.
This is where I think in the next scene, I think we learned that, I guess I didn't realize the country's not called America or the United States. It's called...
Oh, I didn't write that down. What's it called? It's
called Capital City. They still call it the White House. They're Capital City, but then it's called... I don't know how to pronounce this other than MAGA Land. But that's what it looks like to me. MAGELLAND. It's on the top of page 14 if you're reading on Mar-Vell Unlimited. But that's where Power Princess is giving her speech in capital city of Magaland. So fun.
I'm gonna call that Magellan. That's what I'm gonna call that.
That makes more sense based on the Explorer. That one makes more sense.
I don't think is that America, or is that meant to be like
Washington, D.C.?
Something like that. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Because I feel like they've called it America before.
Instead of the District of Columbia, it's called Magellan. Okay.
That's what I
think. The District of Magellan. Yeah. Okay.
That it must be Magellan.
Yeah. Still throwing in...
Because I'm almost positive I've seen America in there. But yeah, you're right. But no, this scene is an interesting one because Hyperion and Power Princess are giving power back to the U.S. government. And they're like, hey, we said we were going to take over for a year, build a utopia. We're done. We're giving it back to you. Cool. And they mention like President Gardner and Vice President Sheldon, which now I'm asking, like, wait a minute, was there an election? When did this happen? Because the last president we knew of was Nighthawk, who left. So how did this new administration and cabinet come about?
President Nighthawk resigned, right? President Kyle.
Okay, yeah.
And I think his vice president was Sheldon, if I recall correctly. It's been, 4 or 5
months. So now he's president. Okay.
And so, at least in our version of the government, then they would appoint a new vice president that would have to be approved by Congress, like a cabinet member. So I'm sure they've done it in the last 12 months. Again, it's a puppet government that has no real power. But
sure, puppet government. And they're the government people are there, and they're just like, but they got tired of paperwork. And they, Hyperion and Power Princess fly back, and they have a little engagement, lovey-dovey moment. I don't know if they officially get engaged. It ends with, "Is that a proposal, Miss Princess?" But they do confirm that Hyperion is not an alien. That they took some tissue samples, and they know that his genetic makeup is human, which is interesting. So he could technically get her pregnant and have a little Hyperion Jr. Oh. We jump to a big press conference where the Squadron Supreme is saying, "Hey, it's been a year. This is everything we did over the year. We even cured death by making the hibernacle things." And a few people are like, "Hey, we have the right to die. We don't want to die." And
yeah,
like,
that's
hey,
where my quote came from. My favorite is the one that's like, "Give me liberty and give me death."
Oh, that's right.
It's one of the billboards that people are holding on all sides.
I like that.
God made death for a reason. Who will pay for our deathless sleep? And without death, life is meaningless.
I mean, they're good points,
Yeah. Surprisingly good points from a crowd with signs.
Yeah.
Very clever. All of them clever.
Yeah, the whole press conference ends. Lady Lark is in the audience. And she's looking for Archer because she's still in love with him and he's run away from her. So she's in the audience. Archer is watching on a TV screen and recognizes her right away. And he's like, "Oh my God, I promise that as soon as all this is over, I'll find you. I'll take you to Master Menace. We'll unbrainwash you."
Did he grow an evil beard sometimes when he got kicked out of the group? Or did he always have that beard?
He had a goatee the whole time.
Yeah, I think he had it. It might have gotten a little thicker because he's now the Black Archer instead of the Golden Archer. So, a little bit more beard will help. Yeah.
He does look cooler. He's still at the bottom of the list. Although at the end of this issue, he may have been surpassed as far as worst member. It's a close race.
There's a lot of worst members throughout all this. So yeah, the whole Nighthawk and his team of villains are flying back to the Squadron's base because this is going to be the big moment. They're kind of all ruminating on it. He's thinking, "Can I kill Hyperion if it comes down to that?" Mink is, kind of hands all over Nighthawk. There's still a little bit of an item.
Yeah, and Master Menace doesn't go. He's like, "Whatever happens, you guys take care of this."
Yeah. He says, "I don't need to be a part of this. Yeah, if you aren't going to brainwash them, that's not my style. So you know where to find me." But the squadron arrives home. Nighthawk and everybody is there waiting for them. I love actually this panel of this whole squadron flying back to the base, and everyone's got their own little individual thought bubbles. There are so many different characters and motivations and opinions and everything that's kind of going on amongst all these like 20 or so characters. So it's just everybody's got so much. But
it's really crazy how much we care about these villains that weren't even in the first 5 issues.
Yeah.
The whole thing is crazy how much I care and know every single one of these characters. We joked, I think, in the first 3 or 4 issues, I'm just going to call him Wonder Woman. And now I'm calling them all by, and I've said this, I call them all by their real names, but I know all of their individual motivations, all their thought bubbles. I probably could just look at the thought bubbles and know who was thinking it without even seeing the image of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
They've laid this out so well in 12 issues of 20. I mean, this one's, I guess, a little longer, but they're all 25 pages. It's remarkable how well they've put this on here. Grimwald's done a good job.
Just the panel of just Shape asking Moonglow, you like Shape, Moonglow? That's just him remembering his conversation with Apex. It's a little thing. Yeah, Spectrum is the one who's kind of most concerned about Foxfire right now. Foxfire doesn't know what to do. She's really conflicted with her feelings, and Spectrum's she isn't talking to me anymore. Is she over me? Lamprey just wants to beat somebody up.
Yeah.
All that.
Yeah, Lamprey is, when Nighthawk was so excited about all those criminals are back on the streets, and he's like, "Hooray!" Lamprey is one where it's maybe we should have thought about this.
Yeah, he's a vicious one. But they get there, and Nighthawk is waiting, and he says, "Hey, we need to talk. We got to stop this." And everyone, gosh, Spectrum is talking to Wizard "Hey, is that Wyatt as a new Archer outfit over there?" And Foxfire, I hope this doesn't turn into a fight. Blue Eagle's why is the Nighthawk hanging out with criminals? There is so much to unpack here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
But
And you're right, Chris. Like most of these people like weren't in the first half of this thing that we've read, and yet have been folded in. Like Foxfire, and I guess that was my point when we talked about like Monica Rambeau, Captain Marvel. They're like, I'm like, she only gets a scene per this team book, and like, so I don't really get to know her. Foxfire only had one scene per like 4 issues. I feel like I know her. They've done a really good job of establishing her.
Just the way that the characters have bounced off each other, where you really get a sense of like, oh, this is what this character is about and what they're going through. It's just, it's a lot better done in this. I do like that about Roger Stern's Avengers. There's always a lot going on. It is from the Claremont school. I mean, he edited Claremont's X-Men run, so it's very similar in that everybody has, every X-Men character, you could, like you were saying, Vince, you could read a dialogue balloon, and even if the letterer screws up, you know who's saying it.
Right.
Yeah. So Hyperion is like, listen, man, you're coming in here to jump us, but we've got you outnumbered, Nighthawk. What are you gonna do? And then that's when all the villains show themselves and form a little circle around the core Squadron Supreme. And this is when you really do get to see like visually, like, wow, the squadron is only 6 at this point. Everyone else is surrounding them. Really just 5, because Arcana is pregnant. Mm-hmm. We get the whole thought balloons from the squadron, and Arcana is just like, I gotta get out of here. I'm about to go into labor. This is bad. Oh, we did skip a scene earlier where she was with her doctor, and they're like, hey, we gotta go travel for this press conference. You recommend it? And doctor's like, no, but like, I know you're gonna do what you're gonna do, so whatever. There's Spectrum is mainly concerned about Foxfire, like, our relationship. Wizard wants to run again, but he says, no way can I do that. Blue Eagle says, I knew we should have brainwashed them all. And things are kind of nobody's making the first move until Spectrum says, you know what, I've got to do something, and he shoots a beam from his ring down into the ground to try and trap everybody's hands. And so that's like, he's lit the match. This is when everything starts. Redstone, who's a big powerful guy, is able to like lift up a boulder out of the ground. Inertia, whose powers are all mental, doesn't really need her hands. Power Princess recognizes this and kind of goes for her. But like, stuff is wild at this point. Everyone starts jumping around, fighting everybody. Inertia is causing a lot of issues. Power Princess like can't even get to her. Knocks her into Spectrum.
Inertia would be that villain that, like, when you're like in a big boss fight and there's like 3 bosses, like Inertia would be the one that like is that one that gives me the most fucking trouble.
If this is a Final Fantasy game, I would target Inertia first.
Basically, because she's using everybody's powers against them. So she's like reflecting their powers in like a weird way. Like, she's basically, in a Final Fantasy battle, she's like, I can't do any hits until I figure out how to take care of this one person.
The like character that just does status effects to you. That you're like, I just got to get rid of this person that's poisoning and blinding everyone
and making everybody super evasive. Buffing and debuffing everyone.
Right.
Yeah. So this fight is getting wild. Nighthawk and Hyperion are talking for a quick second in the middle of this, and Hyperion says, call it off before someone gets hurt. Nighthawk says, you started it, you got to surrender. No one's budging an inch. Nighthawk just like turns and walks away back to his ship. Nighthawk barely does any fighting in this. He just like hangs out.
No, he's mostly just there to talk, which is funny because it's like this crazy fight going on. Which it's when it starts escalating, you're like, oh shit, this is getting serious. Because for a while, they're just having a superhero fight. But then like Arcana, I think is probably the first one where she basically collapses and starts going into labor when Moonglow starts like doing super gravity illusions to her, and
that
she's
scene
like, she's like, wait a minute,
we're gonna end up. Go ahead.
It's like, wait, I heard she was pregnant, but she can't be going into labor. She's just messing with me, right? And basically psychs herself out, and then Shape basically steps in and is like, don't mess with her.
It's like, it's a really tough scene to read where she's like in pain on the ground going through her contractions, and she like, you feel this weight on her and you're like, oh my God, I'm so worried about this baby. Hyperion loses his glasses throughout the course of this. He's mainly fighting with Redstone. I think maybe my panel of the week is Lamprey, like smelling fresh blood, trying to go down to steal his powers, and he just holds up a piece of sheet metal that he busts straight into. Great.
Yep. Just makes a good kank sound as Lamprey just headbutts a piece of sheet metal at huge speeds that would kill a regular person.
Yeah. We do get our first death here our first death in this issue as Whizzer is trying to go to like catch Thermite who's trying to blast at him, but Haywire shoots his like stuff at Whizzer, who gets all caught up on it, and he's like rolling in a ball, but he's still coming towards Thermite, blast into his like energy temperature regulation pack, whatever it is, and Thermite just gets this giant spike of ice that comes out of him that he's trapped inside, and he's just like, oof, yeah, he's dead. I think actually at the end of the book they mentioned he's like 10% chance of survival, but no, that guy's dead. We have Arcana just like pushes Foxfire and Mink away. We haven't really like talked about Mink's power set. She has claws. Did we know that? Had we mentioned that?
I think we
like
called her Cat.
Claws.
We thought maybe she was a Catwoman analog.
Yeah.
That's right. But no, she's on the ground, and Shape is helping her. We're kind of. I'm jumping around all over the place, but Shape, who ends up knocking out someone? Oh, that's right. While Arcana is on the ground, she has to concentrate hard enough to use her magic to do like some astral projection stuff. And that was a pretty badass scene of like using her magic in between the contractions to try and like time it to where she could beat up whoever it was from behind, beat up Mink from behind, and ask Shape to carry her to the hospital. Oh, that's right, Moonglow. And when Moonglow gets knocked out, I love this touch where you see her true image, because she has like that, reality, the image altering kind of things. You see that she's really just like kind of a middle-aged, frumpy lady with a really bad haircut. Sorry, Moonglow.
She has control over the haircut too.
I know, right? Yeah. Why didn't you just cut your hair better? I don't know. Boy, all over the place. Spectrum finally wakes up. He's been knocked out at some point in the middle. He sees Inertia knock out Power Princess, and he manages to knock her out. So Inertia is at least kind of out of the game temporarily, which is good.
Golden Archer shoots Dr. Spectrum's like crystal or whatever off his hand, and so he loses all his color. And Blue Eagle gets so mad at that he literally just hits the Golden Archer or Black Archer on the head hard enough that you see brain.
Yeah, that was probably the most brutal scene in the whole book, of seeing like he's carrying around this battle mace, like Hawkman always does in the DC comics. But do you ever see him actually connect to anyone with that mace, like directly to their head? Like, holy cow, that's a brutal weapon to use, dude.
I think it's like a Ninja Turtle situation where Leo never kills anybody with his swords.
Right.
That's what, I was about to say the same thing. Like, maybe he can hit a robot. But
yeah.
Or like hit a wall or something, and something falls on their head.
He is straight up out. So like Spectrum has fallen to the ground. It's very cool the way he's just like drained of all color.
Yeah,
he's just
cool.
like
it's a cool visual.
Very neat. But we get everything happening. So Redstone is holding on to Hyperion now. He's been able to overpower him, and now Lamprey is like, great, I'm gonna suck out his energy. And he's like, yeah, this is great. He starts to get addicted to sucking out energy. He goes and sucks out Red Eagle's wing energy, or Blue Eagle's wing energy. Yeah. And so he can't fly. Blue Eagle is trying to get down to a safe landing, and so he's like trying to aim himself at Pinball to try and land on him. But instead he breaks Pinball's back, and he breaks his own neck, and they're both dead. Cool. Sorry, Blue Eagle. You tried. Who's the guy? Remnant? The
Magic carpet
fabric guy? Yeah. He's like, kind of busted up about it. He's really sad. I like that. Lamprey does not care. He's just off to steal some more energy. And this is like the end of the fight after those two are dead. Nighthawk is standing over Hyperion's body. He says, hey, it's over. This is it. We've won. We are going to dismantle everything that you built, undo it all, because this was no good. Foxfire is crying over Spectrum's body, but he does start saying something. He's not totally dead. And Foxfire is like, yeah, I didn't really know what to do. I thought maybe I could help the squadron from the inside, but I know what I can do now. I know how I can help. Nighthawk is now telling Hyperion, like, the reason his program is a failure is because you got to be there with it. Because when you're gone, who's going to be in charge of all this powerful stuff you've built? You can't trust them. and so that's why you can't do this.
Where was Nighthawk in like 1960s America,
right?
when the executive branch took over everything?
Where was Nighthawk in issue 1 of this? Just to tell Hyperion, like, that's why.
Yeah, I mean, I still kind of disagree with this thesis. I'm like, I mean, we spent a good chunk of the middle of this book being like, you guys still suck and you're still fascists in this moment. Y'all aren't good guys using potentially corruptible tools. Y'all are also like fucked up and corrupt also.
Yeah.
This thesis, maybe it's just him appealing to be like, no, I agree with you. You are a good guy. But this can easily be taken by somebody and do a lot of bad shit. And that's why this has to go.
Right, because Hyperion's defense of like, you guys shouldn't be doing this. He's like, look at all the good we did. Like, we fixed the country in a year, so that's a good thing. You know, it's like hunger is just not a problem anymore in America. You're like, that's good, but Nighthawk's making
probably didn't need to brainwash people to make that happen.
Yeah, it's like, but it's on the edge of a knife where like, if the wrong person, you know, if President Crime is elected and just commits crime every day, which I'm sure would never happen.
Never.
President Crime? Is that what,
yeah,
like, that's a good name for a president.
Yeah. Well, don't tell the Republican Party. They'll nominate and elect him.
For a good time, vote President Crime.
Yeah. So it's ironic. That's what they'll say. They're like, this will really make 20-year-olds with purple hair mad if you elect President Crime. So anyway, that's Nighthawk's thesis, which I agree. Yeah. He's not making the strongest argument I think he could make.
It's a bit of an oversimplification and all that kind of stuff. But it's
it is his friend, and like they're, I do think they should probably be having a conversation about like, this has gotten out of hand. We should stop this. Yeah. But it's kind of, I guess, already gotten past that point. And then Foxfire runs up and goes, hey, Nighthawk, I got something for you.
And she straight up rocks his heart, and Nighthawk is dead instantly. Wow. I did not, like, out of nowhere. I'm like, damn. And so Spectrum is now like, oh my God, what did you do? And Mink, who is in love with Spectrum, now comes up and just stabs Foxfire in the back, and she's dead.
In love with Nighthawk.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
What did I say?
You said Mink was in love with Spectrum.
Sorry. You're right. Mink in love with Nighthawk, so she kills Foxfire to get the revenge. And Spectrum is now so mad that he turns red, and like a blast of red energy shoots out at Mink. Then he turns green, and he like goes to fly away. Lamprey is like, oh, energy, I'm trying to steal this now, but it's too much, and Lamprey explodes into a million pieces. Great. And I think that is the last death in the book here. While standing, like kneeling over Nighthawk's body, Hyperion says, with Power Princess's approval, we surrender. And we get, the last page is a little bit of a recap of the dead. Nighthawk, Foxfire, Blue Eagle, Pinball, Black Archer, and Thermite. Hyperion says they'll dismantle the squadron, dismantle the Utopia program. That's it. We see Arcana have her boy, who's born healthy. And that's it. End of the book. Wow.
Yep, Shape is there from the gallery watching.
Shape is so sweet. Even unbehavior modified, he's still a good guy. Good guy. Is he the best member of the squadron?
He's the purest soul.
He's the purest soul. Yeah.
He's up there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like Apex, I think has done nothing wrong really. I mean,
So there are some loose threads here that I'm curious about. We also should talk about, there is like a sequel to this called Death of the Universe. We've been calling it a one-shot every time we mention it, but I've realized now it's part of the Mar-Vell graphic novel series. It's like 80 pages. Instead of reading it next time, we're going to put some distance between it. We'll come back to it fairly soon, but we want to let this story breathe a little bit before we jump to another Squadron story. It's still written by Mark Greenwald, still art by Paul Ryan. So we'll definitely get to it sooner rather than later. But some of the loose threads throughout this are A, Tom Thumb's body, and B, Tom Thumb's robot double that Apex was making, and C, Apex, who's still alive, and just like, I wonder if unbehavior modifying her would make her okay. Mm-hmm. So yeah, those are three things that I'm like, ooh, what else is there? Were there any other loose threads or anything?
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, it's comic books. I mean, Master Menace is clearly still out there. He's got the B-Mod machine, basically. So Master Menace is going to Doctor Doom it, I'm sure. I don't think there's enough like Squadron Supreme relaunches, but I don't think they ever pick up on this particular thread. So,
Well,
But yeah, so there's
they have a Death of a Universe graphic novel then.
But that's the only one. Like there's a James Robinson relaunch. There was Supreme Power by J. Michael Straczynski. There's actually one coming up that we'll talk about once we're done with our thoughts here. Coming up with the Marvel Universe right now. So
yeah, I know you're shocked to hear it, but the first year of Kurt Busiek's Avengers, they did restore that universe.
Classic.
So there is a crossover. I think it's the first annual that Perez and Busiek did.
Oh, nice.
Does bring back that world. At the time, I had never read anything with those characters, so I was like, "Who are these people? What are you talking about?
What is this world that's coming back?"
Yeah. So
because I had heard of like the Squadron Sinister before, so I was like, wait, I thought that they were just bad guys. Like, what is going on? The fact that there's two different versions of like Hyperion and all these other characters.
Yeah. But for covering so much ground, this book is remarkably clear and deep, and just like I can't believe how much was packed into these 12 issues. It's really.
I mean, when you think about like the big created a whole universe of superheroes with history and resolved itself, you think of Watchmen, and this was happening at the same time. And I don't know if it's not going for the same thing as Watchmen, and Watchmen's a different thing, but it's definitely a really good self-contained superhero universe done in 12 issues. That examines the tropes of superheroes, I think, really well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very obviously going for something different. Like it is fundamentally, I think, a superhero book, whereas like Watchmen is, the whole point it kind of seems to be that like was a phase, and that like now, the people who fight crime just do it like just wearing a mask and a trench coat like crazy people, or do it with the government or whatever. That it's basically like, that it's not realistic to still have costumed characters punch each other. But which I think had a kind of negative effect on the next 30 years of comics. But this is more of a traditional superhero. But I agree, this is just like looking at it in a realistic way. And I do think it's it's the same thing Watchmen does, where they're able to take these characters you kind of know and be like, what if I just do this little twist on it, where Green Arrow is an asshole in those Justice League books that we did, Green Lantern, Green Arrow from the 70s. He's an asshole in that book. And so it's just like you just tweak it just a little bit and you're like, man, I really hate him now.
Yeah. So you were saying someone else. Who's your least favorite member of the Squadron now? Who's at the top of the list?
Like I said, I think it's hard. It becomes a close race at the end, because you've got and I don't even know if you count him because he's fighting against the regular Squadron, but like Lamprey is just like trying to murder people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad. Blue Eagle is a failure at basically everything. He gets caught and brainwashed and then unbrainwashed in issue 11, and then immediately all he does is kill Golden Archer, which I know we hate Golden Archer, but it's like you didn't really have to do that.
Oh, that's the other hanging thread. Lady Lark is still out there.
That's true. Yeah, she's still got her powers. No. They can still cure her.
Still brainwashed to love. Oh, how does that work?
Yeah, I presume that they could fix it, since they'd have to track her down. But it's I think Blue Eagle's right there. Golden Archer, very bad. Who else? Vince, do you have any other nominations?
It's tough for me because I'm actually like the last few issues of the book put the villains and heroes. So then I thought that the Squadron Supreme were protagonists, which I think in the middle of this I was very much against like every member of the Squadron Supreme other than like Zarda and Aquaman, who's gone.
Another hanging thread. He's still.
I'm trying to think of who's at the bottom. I did not like Tom Thumb and Eugenics. I wasn't a fan of that.
Right. Right. I do
Doc
feel that
Spectrum
maybe
he's still
maybe
alive,
he redeemed himself a little bit. Like I don't know if redeemed himself is the right answer, but you can tell that he's a grown man. I think because of his relationship with Foxfire, and there is something there.
And even Black Archer recognized his faults.
Right.
So
There's none of these characters. The only really one-dimensional character I would say is like Lamprey, who just wants to kill, murder.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I do think that that's the other interesting part of this book that I guess Watchmen covers similar ground, is that like if there isn't the Batman Catwoman thing where it's like, no, you commit crimes, we can never be together, where it's like you're adults, like this book kind of gets it out of the way by brainwashing, which is very weird, but that it's just like seeing costume characters have like adult relationships doesn't. I mean, it still kind of feels different than what you're used to from like big two comics. Like you still see it a little bit, like flirtations, and like the Justice League cartoon had Batman and Wonder Woman flirt a lot, but it's not like they're gonna like actually go anywhere with that. Like they're too interested in protecting those IPs to like actually let something happen.
And I think like early on when we were reading this, Vince, you were saying you got kind of Static X vibes from this, of just like anything can happen because it is essentially a fresh team and you don't know what's going on. And so
I still feel like it's Ecstatics, yeah, because like the whole team flipped. More than half the team at the end of this wasn't the team that we started with.
And I like that. I like seeing a lot of change. But that does still also feel natural and not abrupt. Like this feels like also like the fight sequences and just like the anything can happen feel of all this. The fight scenes were so sparse throughout this book that like during this big last fight sequence, it was such a like, oh geez, any one of these people could genuinely die. And you like it builds this just sense of God, I don't even know what the words are that I'm looking for, but it's anything can happen. You're on the edge of your seat.
There's real stakes to it, and it's like I felt that way very briefly in that Captain Marvel issue where she thought she didn't have her powers, but then she immediately gets her powers, and she's like, I shouldn't have survived that, but I did, and I'm like, okay, well then there's really no. Right. It's not like I was worried she was going to die or anything, but it does make it less interesting.
It feels a lot like also, basically because the visuals, it looks like almost like an airport or someplace where there are planes and stuff. It looks a lot like Captain America Civil War's big fight sequence, which there were like lasting injuries to characters and fractured relationships between heroes and stuff that manifested through that fight. It gave me a lot of vibe from that, which was a really good fight.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's a good way to, speaking of Civil War, segue into what we're doing next.
Well, hold on. We did also, before that, want to mention what's happening in the current Marvel universe with the Squadron Supreme, with the Heroes Reborn stuff.
Yeah, so the Heroes Reborn, again, I don't know why Marvel's bringing back the name Heroes Reborn. I wonder if it's they're protecting IP for a name or a nostalgia trip, that they have to publish something called Heroes Reborn every 25 years. I'm not sure. But basically, it's a universe that if the Avengers never assembled, so like Thor's a drunk, Iron Man never made his armor, blah, 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 blah. But the weird wrinkle about it is that the Squadron Supreme are the premier heroes of this alternate universe where the Avengers never assembled. So like Peter Parker is like a Jimmy Olsen type who photographs Hyperion. So there's all these like Hyperion's like origins, like the main focus of this major Marvel event for like issue 2. And there's all these like extra like miniseries that are going to cover the Squadron Supreme, Hyperion and them. A lot of the heroes are still there. Like Zarda is there. Whizzer is not there, but there's a speed person named Blur. It doesn't look like the same dude. It's interesting though.
I mean, they like we said, the Squadron's been through a number of reboots throughout the years, so it's going to be some different version in this book. But I read the original Heroes Reborn way back when, after Onslaught and all that.
Yeah,
that would be a fun, goof 'em up to do like Rob Liefeld's Captain America.
We have talked about that. We might get there. But it's written by Jason Aaron, who's generally pretty consistent. So.
So we'll see. I might even pick that up and read that ongoing. Who knows?
Yeah, there's also a mini series with like the young Squadron, I think, and it's like Kamala Khan and Miles. Miles is like a young Falcon. Miles Morales is like young Falcon instead of young Spider-Man. So.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that might be a team that I'd want to check out. It looks like Champions, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. But back to the Civil War segue that Chris was trying to make. Sorry, Chris, to derail that. But what were you saying about the Civil War?
What's so civil about war anyway?
Yeah, what is
War,
it?
what is it good for?
Yeah, we're getting into next time's books here. Well, I'm done with the long read. A whole new set of books to read. But our main read is going to be Captain America, The Winter Soldier from 2004 by Ed Brubaker, art by Steve Epting. This is really one of the. It's the book that brought Bucky back. Introduced the whole Winter Soldier thing. This was issues 1 through 7 of the Captain America relaunch from that year. I think this is one of the ones we've definitely all read. I haven't read it in a while though, but I'm excited to jump back.
That made me like Captain America. Before
yeah,
that,
oh yeah, for sure.
Before, I mean, like I'd never read comics that much, and I had thought like, oh, Captain America, he's this Boy Scout, like he's super boring. Who cares about him?
Yeah, I don't care about him.
And I don't know why I picked up. I think I was just reading Avengers Disassembled and figured I'd read like all the books that came out of it. They did a relaunch. I think Warren Ellis and 80 Granoff did an Iron Man book that Extremis came out of for Iron Man 3.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I read that issue and was like immediately hooked on Ed Brubaker's Captain America. It's so good.
Yeah. And it's got, huge ramifications for the cinematic universe as well. Might probably have some elements of it that we can see in Falcon and Bucky's series that's coming out.
Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think is what
Falcon
it's called.
Soldier.
And that comes out March 19th, so I think we'll read it a little before that. Yeah. So.
Yeah. We were even kind of talking about maybe we want to read the whole Captain America run by Brubaker there. It might take us a bit. We might, mix in some other stuff. We'll see how it goes. But for right now, just that first 7 issues called Out of Time. And we're also going to start our next long read, which is going to be kind of a unique one. We're going to read the first year of Spider-Man. Maybe even more. Who knows?
Amazing Spider-Man. We're not reading
Amazing Spider-Man. No. Amazing Spider-Man from the 60s, the original Stan Lee run. Chris has read the majority of this. I've read like the first 30 issues or so way back when. It's been a while. Vince never has, so this will be fun for us to just kind of go through and see.
My understanding is like almost all of Peter's like Rogues Gallery appears in that first year. Like Doc Ock shows up, maybe Kraven, Mysterio.
It's a lot of people. Really just like Green Goblin is the last one.
Kraven shows up in that first year, but Chameleon does.
Okay.
Chameleon. I forgot about Chameleon. But yeah, that'll be fun to read. So yeah, join us next time. Captain America, Winter Soldier, and the first issue of Amazing Spider-Man. We've read Amazing Fantasy at some point, right? We don't. Nobody.
Yeah, we read Amazing Fantasy 15 when Stan Lee passed away. We read a bunch of number ones from him.
Yeah, everybody knows what happens there. So, but that's it. What else do we need to talk about here? Chris, how's your Stupid Minds doing?
It's going okay. We have a podcast episode that should be coming out very soon. A impromptu. We recently did a movie we actually really liked about cyborgs called Nemesis. It was our last episode, and we liked it so much we went ahead and reviewed Cyborg 2 starring Angelina Jolie and Jack Palance, who's like 100 years old.
The Legend of Curly's Gold.
And it's not as good as Nemesis, believe it or not. And we have lots of fun facts about John Voight, Father of the Year.
Good to know. Good to know.
I mean, I won't tell the whole story, but long story short, Angelina Jolie got emancipated to make this movie for reasons that are very unsurprising. For if you think about why a 17-year-old would want to be emancipated to star in a movie, it's gross. So it's a weird movie. It also features Elias Koteas from
Casey Jones,
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Casey Jones, and various other better movies. But yeah, he's like her instructor, a human that falls in love with this teenage cyborg, which is maybe not the best thing to happen. And they have to escape to the surface world. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's hopefully the end of our cyberpunk, era that we've been doing, but it's a lot worse than Nemesis.
Good to know. Vince, how about you? What's going on?
I just recently relaunched my video series again. That was a game covering weird video games, usually weird uses of like IP. So it's on the All My Friends Are Right Here YouTube channel, which you can also find every episode of this show on. And the first episode I posted on Sunday, and it's called about Super Princess Peach for the Nintendo DS, the only full video game she got.
Yeah, I just watched that. She kills enemies with crying. Seems messed up.
Crying into their mouths. Yeah, it's a because women be emotional is what they I guess they thought. Yep. It's a real positive image. Good thought of women, I guess. It's very disappointing.
Excellent.
But I got I got Nintendo DS capture working for me, so that's a fun thing I'm exploring now. Yeah,
that's fancy. Yeah, I've been dealing with my capture stuff. I think I should be able to stream from the PS4 soon. Fingers crossed, but still doing a lot of Hades. You can catch me on Twitch. I'm Kiarrash, Kiarrash. Recently, I haven't jumped into Bowser's Fury yet. I beat Super Mario World 3D World in one day.
Nice.
Didn't go in and do all the star business yet. Maybe one day, but
there's like 6
Fury
extra
Road
worlds after the main game that require you to have a lot of the stars. So I check it out.
Ooh, wow. Okay, so I got to do all that.
Some good content, yeah.
Yeah. And then just other than that, lots of Hades, some Mario Maker. Just floating through whatever I feel like. Been a busy week, so not too much time for streaming. But God, Hades, amazing game. Still talk about Hades all day. And wrestling. We got to talk about wrestling. I feel like the AEW women's division had a soft reboot. Chris, you had no power for a while. I don't know if you were able to catch it all, but
I haven't. But I'm excited because they have a lot of talent on paper. They just haven't used it very well to this point. Some of it's not their fault. They had a bunch of Japanese talent they couldn't bring over for like 6 months.
Exactly. So they did like their whole Japanese half of this new women's tournament, which is sort of like a soft reboot for it all, is just taking place from Japan. And they put out a 1-hour special with 4 quick matches. I think that's like anyone can enjoy it. I think it'd be a perfect introduction to wrestling. So I recommend that. AEW's women's tournament. Just watch the Japanese side on YouTube, and it's pretty cool. But that's my recommendation. Anyone else want to recommend anything else they've been enjoying?
I'm good. Well, actually, I saw Snowpiercer, the movie. I thought it was fun. Not very subtle, but it was fun. From the director of Parasite, starring Captain America and Tilda Swinton. It's a movie about people on a train. I'll leave it at that.
Isn't there a show of that now?
Yeah, it's got Jennifer Connelly and David Diggs. And it's on TNT or something. It's in its 2nd season. I don't know anything about the show, so I figured I'd watch the movie because I liked Parasite.
Is David Diggs like a music guy?
He's from Hamilton.
Okay. Got it.
And Kimmy Schmidt season 3. So, but primarily Hamilton.
Cool. Well, I guess that's all we got going on here. Chris, anything else that you want to recommend? You bet. Heat is good.
Yeah, electricity, water, things that allow us to enjoy modern living. The concept of showering, I endorse.
That's a good one. I recommend that. Yeah. I might even go take a shower right now. That sounds good.
Yeah, that's
wash the stink of this podcast off.
Exactly.
All right. I think it's time to end. We're getting weird. Vince, I love you. Thank you so much.
I love you too.
Chris, I love you. Thank you so much.
I love electricity.
Jesus Christ. And to our listeners, we all love you. Thank you so much for listening and for continuing to come back and join us through our adventures through the world of comic books. That's a weird ending. Okay. Bye, everybody. We love you. See you next time.